Let's look at the speed of doing business in Canada from the standpoint of an immigrant business person. Click here the subscribe button, set up the alert, and if the content of this specific video is useful to you, let us know by clicking the like button. There are situations where we feel that things are moving too slowly. Here in this video, we're going to provide a recipe to speed up things for you. But first, let's look at two ways where things may be moving slowly for your business in Canada, especially if you are an immigrant business person coming from an emerging country. So let's look first at revenue and sales. That's how all business starts, right? I need to sell, I need to have clients. I hear from a lot of people that perception that there is a lot of stop and go. Oh, I started this opportunity, I had a meeting, but then it went cold. So I went there, everything was flowing fine, I was having the meetings, and now I don't hear back from them. I don't have the next meeting booked. So what's happening? There's a lot of activity in terms of new contacts being initiated, and then things slow down, and then at the end of the day of all this, the result is that there is very little business being closed. At the bottom of the funnel, there's just a little drip happening there, if there's anything, right? If the funnel is not clogged altogether. And the second situation where slow business, so first one was slow in closing, right? Slow to get the revenue going. The second thing is about the cost and the expenses side. What does it mean business is slow in Canada? I've heard many people complain that when you hire Canadian service providers, suppliers, whatnot, people think, well, things are too expensive. Maybe my Canadian providers are slow to respond. If they are service providers giving some type of advisory service, like a lawyer, accountant, or something like that, they say, well, I ask them questions, but they're being very evasive. They're not being clear to the point. Or the other concern that I hear a lot from people is like, well, they just gave me some cookie cutter solution, something off the shelf. It's not really customized to what I need. The other thing I hear a lot too is that people believe that it takes too long for finalize a work, and people say, well, and they charge me per hour. So if it takes too long, it means it's getting too expensive. These are common concerns. But I'm going to describe detailed actions that can be helpful for that. But it's really important before that to understand the reasons why you feel that first, you're not closing sales quickly enough. Why is it that sales are not being closed quickly enough? Well, I started conversations, but the guy just told me to talk to another guy, and then now they don't get back to me. It's been a few months. So why things are so slow? We can start with a misplaced understanding on how things really work back home. So if you are from an emerging country, back home typically starts because we made a sale to another business. Typically because we started with a good connection on top. So I knew the CEO, or I got introduced to somebody, a decision maker, a director, a manager. That was our first point of contact. And we had a good connection. We made a presentation. We told them about our solution, our product, our service. And they say, yeah, sure, that's exactly what our company needs. Let's go. So that means, wow, close a sale. You may even have signed a piece of paper, say, yeah, sure, let's go. It's not uncommon that people are relatively quick to agree in principle. And you may have the impression, oh, you see how quickly I closed a sale here. But then let's see what happens. Then when this decision is passed internally to other people to actually make it happen, because remember, having a contract signed by the client doesn't pay bills. The only thing is going to pay bills is when the payment starts to flow to your company checking account, right? So let's see what happens then. Okay, somebody agreed, yeah, you're going to be our supplier. Come here, we're going to buy from you. Great. Then they start to pass on that information internally to other people. Then we start to get across a lot of bugs and details. There's many of these, oh, there's this one more thing. Oh yeah, we also have to check this. We also have to check that, right? So there's always a lot of bugs and delays to really close, depending what you define as closing. Was it a handshake where somebody said, yeah, let's buy from you? Or was it an initial contract? They said, yes, we're going to buy from you. We are your clients now. Or do you count that as money in your bank account? Because then once the business is actually closed, yeah, we close the deal. We're going to do it. Well, are there disputes about terms on the agreement? So, well, but the boss had agreed to this, but they don't really know that this thing is necessary. So let's renegotiate these terms and Let's make sure everybody's on site. Or let's say everything was even done, delivered, the services were rendered. Are there delays to pay? Right? Oh, there's this, there's that. Well, but this is not really what had been promised. Well, but that's different from what was in the contract. I know that if you're from an emerging country, everything I'm describing here is very familiar to you. You went through this situation a lot of times, right? And when there is a new opportunity, let's say this is a new client of yours, what do you do? Oh, I just got this new client. We're gonna find a way to move very quickly. Oh, but I already had pre-committed my resources. Well, we're gonna find a way. We're gonna squeeze it in. We're gonna redirect some resources. We're gonna maybe delay some things. We're gonna reallocate some people. There's gonna be impact all around on your organization when you are making a sale. And in the buying organization who's buying from you, there's gonna be impact too. It's gonna impact people's time. People are gonna need to get the training. People are gonna need to get, you in their systems, the financial side. Like there's work to be done all around when a new business transaction is taking place. And you may be thinking, well, what's the big deal? Everything you're telling me, this is just the way of doing business. Delays and long times, it's normal, it always happens. However, here's the difference. There are delays and long timelines back home in your emerging country of origin, but these things are not transparent. You may be under the impression, yeah, it only took me 2 months to close that deal there, and here in Canada I'm talking to these guys for 17 months, and still I don't have a signed deal. Let's look how things actually work in Canada. Remember here, we have our program, Your Business in Canada, where we're gonna hold your hand and walk you through step by step these processes of building your success in Canada. But let's look how things work here in Canada, right? Click on the link in the description to see our program, Your Business in Canada. If you want our help, it's going to be our pleasure. But let's look how things happen here in Canada. First, I say this in other videos, there's no magic power at the top in Canada. Typically, yeah, if you met a top decision maker, and they're never going to say, yeah, sure, we're going to buy from you, especially if it's a larger client. Even if it's a smaller client, they may want to have some time to think or ponder that with some key people in their team. So there's not that magic power at the top, which is, yeah, I decided and people are going to implement. Because there is a multi-factor decision making in Canada that's very common. There's multiple people involved in a decision, and there is always going to be bugs, things that need to be adjusted to get your solution on board, your new product, your new service into that supplier. But here's the thing. Unlike, very different from your home country where somebody already made the decision and now the delays are on and renegotiations, all that also happens in Canada, but that happens before signing the deal. Canadians like to work out the bugs beforehand. And I'm going to give you an example. Even, let's say, okay, if you don't want to sell to Canadians, but let's try even to imagine, because I've seen this situation many times. Let's say a company comes here and they want to buy a lot from a Canadian supplier. The Canadian supplier is gonna be cautious about making a big sale. So I'm like, what do you mean? Well, then somebody wants to buy, just sell, let's make money. Well, here's the thing, Canadian suppliers are cautious about taking on new clients because they are worried about the impact. They say, well, but I have other existing clients, I have commitments, I have my team, I don't want to make them work overtime because it's gonna be a problem for them. I'm gonna have a problem here with my infrastructure, with my system, with my finances. I have to finance this working capital. I mean, even to buy, people will be thinking twice. Imagine if they're purchasing from you. It's gonna be even more, right? Because now it's them writing the check. Because there is, in Canada, a very strong preference for making plans and sticking to plans. Well, this was in our production schedule. This is in our pipeline of work for my people, and we need to be very careful in changing things that have been previously agreed, because in Canada it's perceived as being very bad if you keep changing things. Well, people know the world is messy, things happen. People don't want to be disorganized because that's demotivating to teams. That creates all sorts of other problems internally. So even like if there is a new opportunity for a Canadian client saying, yeah, we got this giant client now, they want to be our client. I will wait for resources and for people. I will, okay, yes, I can sell this to you, but I need to make sure I get the resources and I'm able to deliver. So I minimize this impact all around. So this all explains why sales sometimes is perceived as being slow in Canada. Well, I've been talking to this guy for 15 months and we haven't signed the deal yet. Back home, in my country, I signed this deal in the first 2 months. Well, yeah, but then it took you 17 to see money on your account because everything you were working all the bugs. Here you work out the bugs beforehand, and then when you sign the deal, everything goes more quickly. Yeah, the bank accounts are set up, this is set up, whatever, you're gonna get paid. So you it's almost like it's an inverted order of when the headaches happen or when working out the bugs happen. Here, Canadians like to front load the problems before they make the decision. So yeah, let's work through all the bugs so that everything is in order, then we will sign the deal with you. As opposed to, yeah, let's agree in principle and let's figure out a way to make it happen. So another thing now, let's talk about the cost and the expenses side, because we talked only about selling. What about if I'm buying from Canadian suppliers, Canadian service providers, especially service providers that sell their services? In Canada, there's this very strong concept, which is billable hours. People will expect to be paid by the amount of time they worked for you, right? So yes, if you sent an email to a service provider, they have to sit down and write back an answer. In most cases, at the end of the month or whatever, you're gonna receive a statement of the charges, what they're charging you, and they're charging you for that time to answer your emails. Remember, there's also the issue of responsibility and liability and regulations. So for example, if you're having your first meeting with an accountant or a lawyer, and you already have some questions you want to get out of the way, they're probably gonna say, well, sign my retainer first and make the payment, and then we can dig deeper into your questions. Why they're doing that? Of course, they want to get paid. It's not the only reason. They have responsibilities with their professional organizations, with compliance to the professional rules, that they need to have a signed agreement with the clients, where the clients agreed that that service is going to be provided, so that then they can provide sound professional advice that's covered by a contract, a client relationship, right? There is also this issue of liability that people have in the back of their mind, and that being from emerging countries, we don't think about it. Yeah, let's just give the guy a call, we're having lunch, I'm gonna already ask, oh, he's great, he already gave me so many pieces of advice, I haven't even hired him yet, I'm gonna hire him now, yeah, I trust this guy. Canada will be very careful with that information that is exchanged before a formal retention of their services because of professional liability reasons. So what do you do then to move things faster? It's very simple. You have to prepare, right? You have to prepare before you go to meetings, what you're going to want to discuss in the meetings. You have to prepare before you ask questions verbally or in writing. You have to prepare before you make promises of what you're going to have to deliver. You have to check with your people first to make sure you're promising a certain deadline and certain conditions. You have to prepare before you sit down and write things, right? It's prepare, right? And you do all that by anticipating the concerns and the needs of the other side. And finally, you summarize your understanding of the situation in key bullet points. You can do that in one-page documents or bullet points in emails or in meeting minutes. But it's extremely important to summarize the understanding, drive the points home, be very careful and very specific about what you're doing. If you prepare like that, every meeting goes faster. Every step of the process is more clear and things move faster. So the original question here was the speed of business in Canada. It's probably the same speed of business anywhere if you consider beginning to end, meaning end, yeah, there's an established business relationship and money is flowing. It's just the order in which people approach certain problems or certain steps in the process that is different. In some cases, yeah, let's sign everything or let's get the advice first and then we'll do. But in the end of the day, it's all the same thing. So there is a perception that is distorted among a lot of immigrant entrepreneurs in Canada that think things in Canada move too slowly. No, things move at the same speed. right? But only move at the same speed and accurately for people that are prepared. If you're not prepared, then you're moving around and things don't move ahead. And yes, but that's because of lack of preparation. There's nothing to do with the clock and the timing. Okay, thank you very much. Click here in these 2 videos that are useful for your journey.